Hi guys, I'm back. Let's continue our solving equations using algebra tiles math tutorial. So we have here for our problem number 2, 4x minus 10 equals negative 2. Let's create our divider first. So we're representing 4x minus 10 on the left side. So that means we need 4 of these green rectangles. It's 2, 3, 4. And we need 10 red squares to make negative 10. And while I'm doing this, think already, how are we going to eliminate these 10 red squares? How are you gonna make it 0? If you said add 10 yellow squares, you're right. You need to make 10 zero pairs. So let's add in 10 yellow squares. And we have to make sure we have to add the same number of yellow squares to both the left and the right side. So this left side is almost completed. Let's do the same thing on the right. We add 10 yellow squares. That's 2 so far. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we look for all the 0 pairs and eliminate them. So this makes 5 0 pairs, another 5, that's 0. These 2 also become 0. So what do we have left? We have 4 green rectangles that represents 4x, and we have 8 yellow squares. So if we share or divide the 8 yellow squares by the 4 rectangles, how many yellow squares will be paired with each rectangle? And yes, it's going to be 2. So that's x equals 2. Now let's show it algebraically. We're given 4x minus 10 equals negative 2. We have a minus 10 here, so we added 10 earlier. That's a plus 10 here. The same thing with the 10 yellow squares that we added. We do the same thing on the right to keep the balance of our equation. Then we eliminate this. We bring this down. Don't forget, once we added by 10, that's following the addition property of equality. So earlier, this negative 2 plus 10 gave us a result of positive 8. It was shown here that you had 8 yellow squares. If you're looking at this two integers being added together, negative 2 plus 10, if you remember the rules for adding integers with opposite signs, you subtract the numbers, so that will give you 8, and you take the sign from the number with a higher absolute value. So that definitely would give us an answer of 8. When we shared the 8 yellow squares equally, we do the same thing on the left and right side, and again, that is division property of equality. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so that's canceled out, and 8 divided by 4 equals 2. And we just put simplify there. So we have x equals 2. We can check by substituting it back in here. So 4 times the 2 is 8. Is 8 minus 2 minus 10 negative 2? Yes, so that checks our answer. Let's move on to the third. Problem number 3 says 2 times the quantity x minus 3 equals 8. That means we need 2 groups of x minus 3. So let me create a divider again. Then we start by setting up the x minus 3, that's x. And we need 3 red squares for it. And since we need 2 groups, we need to make another row exactly the same. And that would represent 2 groups of the x minus 3. The right side says 8, so I need 8 of these yellow squares. While I'm doing this, think already of how you can eliminate the 6 red squares on the left side of the equation. If you said add 6 yellow squares, you're right. That is making 6 zero pairs. So let's do that. Let's make 6 zero pairs by adding these 6 yellow squares. Let's do the same thing on the right side and add our 6 yellow squares. Last 2, and the right side is done. So now let's eliminate all the 0 pairs that we have. So all of these are eliminated. Nothing on the right is eliminated. It's all positive. So that gives us a total of 14 yellow squares, which is equal to positive 14. Now let's bring down the green rectangle right here and figure out how many yellow squares will be paired with each green rectangle. 14 divided by 2 gives us 7. So yes, each of these green rectangles will be paired with 7 yellow squares, which means x equals 7. Now again, we want to show the algebraic way of doing it. And that's what we're going to do next. So we are given 2 times the quantity x minus 3 equals 8. Now, based on our illustration or using the manipulatives, we had here 2 groups of x minus 3, which is actually the same as 2x minus 6. And we get that by using or applying what we call the distributive property. This factor here, which is number 2, should be distributed or multiplied to each of the terms inside the parentheses. So 2 times the x gives you the 2x. 2 times the negative 3 gives you the negative 6. Then we copy the 8 on the right side of the equation. After we apply the distributive property, we add 6 on both sides, and it's the same as adding the 6 yellow squares earlier to make the 6 zero pairs to eliminate the constant on the left. So we add 6 on both sides, and that's using the addition property of equality. We bring down the 2x, 8 plus 6 is 14, and those are the 14 yellow squares earlier. Now we have a multiplier of 2, so we can divide both sides by 2. 14 by 2, using the division property of equality, gives us 7. Now, some students do not apply the distributive property and they use division instead, especially if they know that the number here on the right side of the equal sign can divide the multiplier before the parenthesis. So let me show that. 2 times x minus 3 equals 8. If I divide both sides by 2, I will get x minus 3 equals 4, and that saves me one step. Instead of a two-step equation, I have a one-step equation. All I need to do is to get the inverse of minus 3, which is a plus 3. So I need to add 3 on both sides, and that already gives me a 7. So the same answer, different method, whichever you're more comfortable with, go with it. Okay? Bye!